Riot's attempting to shake up the meta with the agent pool in 10.04 with the changes to Teo, Clove, ISO, and Deadlock, and they're introducing the new duelist Waylay. I'll be breaking down a tier list for each map because an agent can be unplayable on one map and unstoppable on another. So let's first take a look at the agent changes. Teo is getting a slight nerf to his guided salvos, reducing their central damage from 70 to 65, but the outer ring remains at 50, so move or die still applies. However, salvos now only deal 50% damage to utility. The biggest implication of this is Killjoy is allowed to play the game again. No longer will a free, refreshable ability disable an ult. All 6 damage procs will leave it at 5 HP. And it now takes the salvo's 4 damage procs to destroy her turret, requiring both salvos to be committed to it. And her alarm bot takes 2 damage procs, allowing you the opportunity to retrieve it and replace it in 20 seconds rather than losing it altogether. Teo is still undeniably one of the best agents in the game, and when played correctly will make any Sentinel's life a living hell. Clove has been overperforming in ranked whilst having the highest pick rate of any controller by far and one of the highest in the game altogether. So Riot is nuking them. Riot's increasing Ruse's cooldown from 30 to 40 seconds. This is a huge nerf to their smoke timings. That's now the longest cooldown in the game for a smoke, tied with Harbor's High Tide, whilst also being the shortest smoke of any controller. But that wasn't enough. Pick Me Up has also been the target of a nerf. Health buff duration slightly increased from 8 to 10 seconds, but the speed boost duration has been cut from 8 seconds to 3 seconds, which will drastically impact Clove's ability to snowball around with their movement buff. Metal is also receiving a change. Instead of having a set explosion timer of 1.3 seconds, it now explodes 0.75 seconds after touching the ground. This I see as an overall buff. Throwing it directly on the ground at close range will still play out in a similar way, but now Clove has access to long-range lineups for set plays and utility combos. Next on the list of changes is Deadlock has been given a slight rework that should be an overall buff. Her Gravnet and Barrier Mesh have swapped places. Gravnet is now her signature ability and has a 40-second cooldown. This is going to feel really good for Deadlock, mostly on attack side. You can now use an early net in a default or an exec and have one back to shut down a retake. Gravnet goes from a decent ability to an insanely good one when you can combo it with util, so look to duo with Raze, Breach, and Teo mains. For the change to Barrier Mesh, now that it's no longer her signature, it's going to cost 400 credits, akin to Sage's Wall. This is an expensive ability, so you want to be more conservative with how you're using it and making sure you're getting value with it now that it's so expensive. Overall, I'm a big fan of this change. Signature abilities are something that an agent should have a use for every round, and too often with Deadlock, a round might fall apart or you might not get into a position where your wall is going to get good value. Where with Gravnet, you can use that to instantly impact any space that you're wanting to contest. And we have another rework for the patch. It's another rework for ISO. ISO is receiving changes to his Undercut and Contingency. Undercut is losing a charge, but now suppresses all targets hit, including your teammates, so be careful. Its cost is increased from 200 to 300. And Contingency is gaining an alt fire, which pushes the wall at a walking speed, so now you can choose between running and walking speed for the wall. This is a huge buff for ISO overall, especially in ranked. Feels like you have more of a kit rather than just being a double tap merchant. However, in pro play, it might have some interesting implications where teams would use Undercut to gain early map control, like Fnatic's Haven and T1's Lotus. Now that you've only got one charge, it's not such a cheap investment to gain that space. However, it is even better at taking that space now. We'll have to see how those comps play out now with that change. In balancing these buffs, ISO is getting a slight nerf. Reverted a change that they made recently to ISO's double tap shield tagging. When you break his shield, he'll now be slowed like a heavy penetration tag rather than a wall penetration tag, which is to say he'll be slowed more when you break his shield now. And lastly, Kill Contract is receiving a bug fix. Now, whenever you kill contract, you will get the double tap buff. The buff only, you will not charge a shield. All this means is that when you kill someone in the kill contract, you will get an orb, so you have a shield afterwards. This change isn't really going to affect anything because if you're using ISO ult correctly, you're always shielding before you go into it in almost every circumstance. And lastly, Waylay has been added to the game. I'll have a video breaking down her kit and how to use it best in the next couple of days. Your map pool is changing for 10.04. Say goodbye to Bind and Abyss and welcome in Ascent and ICEBOX. And Ascent is also coming with one change. It seems minor, but it's actually pretty significant. The wall from B main and lane is getting a steel plate, which means that you can no longer penetrate it with heavy weapons. It takes some power away from scan agents and will tilt the scale back towards attackers on this map slightly, though it's still going to be fairly defender-sided. Okay, so which agents are best to play on Ascent? Waylay's kit is going to feel great on Ascent, rivaling Jett's dominance on the map. Even the designer said part of her goal was to introduce an agent that could shake up the meta on Ascent. Phoenix's recent rework makes him an incredible second duelist as well. For initiators, Teo, I think, is a must-pick agent. The main control that he has is better than any other agent with the new change to the wall. His drone is also fantastic on this map. Teo gaining dominance, you're probably less likely to see Sova, and you'll see more Fade if you want recons, and Breach if you want to be more aggro with stuns. Breach is an incredible combo support piece if you have the info side of initiating covered, and a good KO on Ascent is like SS tier, but it requires a lot of practice, lineups, and team coordination, and you ain't finding that in ranked. Omen remains the king of Ascent. His paranoia lines are incredible, his playmaking potential, and one of the best agents you can play on this map into Teo. His kit gives you a lot of outplay potential, close to a must pick in a Teo meta because of the way he can defend on A site. Astra also deserves a spot in S tier, but you're going to get more value playing alongside a Teo Breach like combo rather than against it. This is one of the better maps for Brim. The smaller scale means he can smoke both sides, and his smoke duration plus molly is incredible stall. What keeps him from being S tier is the lack of refreshable smokes, meaning it's very expensive to contest A main with a one-way on defense, and on attack, similarly smoking off mid is way too expensive, and as well you get cooked if you smoke for an exec and get stalled on the way in. The queen of Ascent, Killjoy, can make her return to her best map thanks to the Teo nerfs. If you are playing against Teo though, you will need to be on your toes and know multiple setups so you can play around it. If the meta is slow to update, Killjoy's gonna feast. If it's quick and we move to Teo immediately, you might want to switch to Vice. Vice is another great option, better against the Teo. The best sentinel in the game right now. She's got options for contesting B main with flash through the window, and is great at locking down tree and A site at the same time. Similar to Vice in a way for contesting early space and falling back, the new grab net change is really good for Deadlock on Ascent. We saw Deadlock have some success on Ascent in 2024, and if Teo is going to be good on the map, that pairing with Deadlock is just nuclear. Moving down to our second map, we have Fracture, the worst map for your ranked experience. To make your life easier, just imagine you're playing attack on both sides. You need to be pushing out on defense. Because of that, you're going to see some aggressive agents prioritized here. Our holy trinity of playmaking duelists sit at the top of Fracture, all being able to push each lane on this map and make plays for themselves. Phoenix is incredible as a second duelist, focused on orb maxing and ulting as much as possible, and his wall is great for cutting across site. Breach is pretty much a must pick for this map. His global impact, his ability to contest space is unrivaled. If you have a Breach, Teo jumps up to S tier as well, and these guys will be the meta on this map for the rest of time, I think. If you really don't like playing Breach and you need a solo initiate, Fade is not a bad option either. For controllers, Brimstone is just too synergistic with going hard and fast. Stimmy in your whole team, run it down. On A site, you get 3 smokes for tower, vents, and dish. And then to convert those fast execs, you have the molly for the post plant. Get double value with ult on A site, clearing top and bottom, and you can clear out the most valuable space on B, tower. Overall, Cypher is hard to go past from a solo queue perspective. The only agent in the game who can trip both north and south at the same time. He's also got lots of great cam spots. It's a really solid all-round pick. Vice's ability to stall and also help with aggressive plays naturally fits into the Fracture playstyle. Our third map is Haven, and it boasts the biggest viable agent pool of any map in the game. Take your pick of duelist. All of them are great. Overall, if you have util to break chips, Neon can run over teams. Initiators are also abundantly good. There's 3 sites, so having lots of info and space clearing util is important. Breach Sova, your traditional pairing with the ability to secure a lobby control on attack and defense. If you're defaulting correctly, it simplifies the game so much for you. Teo and Fade can also achieve similar things. If you end up filling Initiator and you don't have a flash duelist, Sky's dual kit is a great spot filler. For controllers, this is Omen's best map, and he's the best controller on it. Haven was built to get paranoia value. You have refreshable smokes for defaults into hits. Verticality can be abused all over the map, and even his ult, which is normally a bit can be really impactful here. Again, Astra's going to get a special mention. She's great for helping control A main if you're lacking a stun for that area. And if you have a team that can run it down C, Astra's util for backside goes absolutely nuts. You cannot play on site on C versus like an Astra Breach Sova comp. For Sentinels, Cypher is your jack of all trades. Solid flank watch, mid control with cam, vision denial and crossing into sewers lurks, good trip variation for defense, all round a really solid agent. If you like opping and you like being aggressive, Chamber is a great pick. So many good op lines. If you're comfy with the op, it's hard to ignore. AJ brings the most reliable flank watch in the game, but on defense has the most restricted util placement, making it susceptible to destruction. Vice has unrivaled stall, but has the hardest time covering flank. Dawn of the Duelist has arrived, and this is probably Waylay's best map. Ideally, you'll want to pair it with another agent who can be the primary op. Jet, Yoru, Chamber, etc. ICEBOX is a map of tall and open spaces. Verticality and large AoE util are premium here. Waylay and Jet can be the most independent here thanks to the variety of pathing options they can abuse with their verticality and dash, but will thrive with even more good support. The wide horizontal layout of ICEBOX allows Yoru to get immense value through his gate crash rotations, and I expect to see VCT teams using him on ICEBOX now that they've started to work out how to play him in general. Initiators. ICEBOX is just about getting the spike down on attack, and on defense, it's about forcing those defusals. Gecko's wingman is great at that. Send little bro in and get the spike down, but not only that, Dizzy gets a lot of value by floating over the top of sites and clearing lots of angles for you. Sova will continue to be a mainstay on ICEBOX. Droning off ops is too valuable. Recon Dart gets heaps of value from the openness of the map, and Shock Dart for util, post plan, especially when synergized with Viper, is really good. For controllers, there's really not much to say other than pick Viper. There is a reason why Viper has a 100% pick rate in pro play on this map. The wall just covers all the angles that you need. Pro tip, you don't need smokes for A. Put your orb in mid and use it to apply lurk pressure and deny info of your rotates through spawn. I actually have a very old video on this channel which highlights Bang using this orb masterfully. I'll put it in the cards. I will also release a more in-depth guide for ICEBOX soon. Arbor is also fantastic on ICEBOX, but much better when paired with Viper rather than being solo. One of the biggest things Harbor also brings is plant insulation via his cove, helping you get the spike down, which is especially hard on B. Omen used to be decent for solo queue, but since they took away the one-ways, it's just not really worth playing anymore. For Sentinels, Sage has the best plant insulation on both sites, but especially B, where sometimes you'll just lose if you don't have Sage, Harbor, or Gecko to help plant. She is always going to be good on this map. The high end of Chamber's value on this map is just solo carrying through opping and abusing people who don't know how to play against the ops. It's just so much variety in setups and verticality that it makes it really hard to flush him out consistently. And Trademark actually does a pretty good job of the flank protection. Killjoy is the only Sentinel that can guarantee flank watch on A, and I think there's enough variety in setups to avoid Teo destruction. I also think that people won't really expect Teo to be good on this map, even though he's probably going to be a monster. So use Killjoy on this map before they realize. Vice was a surprising S tier here for me. When playing around with setups in preparation for this video, I found multiple cases where Razorvine covers high and low thanks to the way jump boxes work. And Sheer was able to wall off things in pretty valuable ways too. Not to mention with the long range bias on this map, her ult should get major values and be a lock-in win when you use it in most rounds. Lotus. Agents that can fight for rubble control will continue to be good. For duelists, raised paint shells is still a premium util piece here, considering it's free. Her flexibility with satchel usage also contributes to her taking the top spot. ISO's buff helps in contest this A space, albeit more costly, and Neon is also great with her stun. Yoru approaches it a little bit differently by being able to circumvent the fight altogether. For initiators, Fade brings the complete package for Lotus. Seize for rubble control, Haunt lineups are crazy, and Prowlers for reclears are so good. Plus that ult, mwah, chef's kiss. She's still the best solo initiator pick for Lotus. Breach and Teo aren't far behind though, and when played together, they can brute force their way into any space on this map. For controllers, Omen's ability to TP across rubble is huge for both sides of this fight, and due to the 3 sites on Lotus, you're going to be retaking more than normal, and Paranoia is one of the best retake tools in the game. With Astra's 5 stars, harkening back to Fnatic's Flashless comp, Astra's proven value on this map. While more complex, Astra is your best bet for controlling multiple lanes on the map. You can be stunning for the A main fight while one-waying for C mound, whilst also having a smoke and suck ready for a B rush. If you like that level of cerebral play, Astra is fantastic on Lotus. However, the strongest controller on this map by far is Viper. The caveat being it needs to be in the second smokes position. She completely counters the way that Breach wants to play the map, using your wall to counter the fight, set up lurks, re-clear. It completely changes how you can approach the map. Including defense, there's such a high value wall from B to tree. If the attackers tap tree door, you wall up, and it's so hard for them to push through that wall into tree. And then you can also wall up on retake to push out of Hobbit and crunch the branch space with stairs. Chamber can disrespect the A fight, get quick picks, and TP out before taking any damage. Vice has become a staple in pro play. Her stall and fight potential for anchoring C is unmatched. And Deadlock has now become a great option as a second senti. With her changes, you can now gravnet the A rubble fight for free. But you can't do that and also do the staple anchor senti on C, so you do need someone else who can anchor that space. Also on Lotus in ranked, it's pretty rough not having a trip. If teams are pushing down and fighting A, they're more naturally inclined line to flank because they've already pushed up so far. Pearl also has a pretty open agent pool, but for a B-side focus, you can't go past Neon here. Her speed just puts up so much pressure on the defense, and when playing defense can contest top B long, forcing a fight that most players won't be used to. For an A-side focused duelist, Raze is crazy good here. Boombot can clear corners in A main and art, nade for backside, satchel in, satchel to deny plant. There's so much Raze can do on this side of the map. For a balanced approach, I'm actually going with Waylay here. She's got a great kit for Pearl. You can saturate through art window, you can dive backside A or up B tower. On defense, you can take an aggro fight up B long and recall out, and then you can have smoke to help you get out, or you can even use your light speed if you need to. Refract is also great for an early A main fight or mid push. Lots of good options. For initiators, you need to be able to clear op lines. Sova and Teo are going to be the best in class for this. They can drone, Fade can haunt, and Prowler has its downsides compared to a drone, but definitely serviceable. KO and Gecko both have great kits for Pearl, but lack that good drone. Though Knife and Wingman / Dizzy can get the job done. Astra sits above the crowd here. A global presence, free dissipate for B long line breaking, post plant potential, and good ult spots are too good to go past. Viper as a second controller is incredibly good too, walling down B long and getting lots of value on defense. Double slice is a proven combo on Pearl as well. If you hate Astra, you can get by with Omen. Using Shadow Step for cardboard and console can be really helpful for those fights. For Sentinels, another map with a long sight line chamber is very good here, but not only on B, his setups for A and mid are great too for taking early aggressive fights. On attack, it can feel a little limited, but take aggressive timings off your team's noise and you're bound to find picks. Killjoy jumps back up to S tier with the Teo nerfs. There's some unique things that Killjoy can do here on Pearl. I was still finding success with her in the previous patch anyway. F is kept from S tier because Teo can destroy his troops pretty easily on this map, but also he's unable to reliably trip street. And in a ranked environment where you're lacking coordination about where the gaps are, you're going to get punished for it. Split. This is the best double duelist map in the pool right now. You'll always want Raze to be one of those duelists. Her space creation between satchels and nade is just so hard to beat. Yoru is a great pairing and can be a great solo duelist with the right initiators. Diving in with verticality options is insanely good. And traditionally, you'd see Jet and Raze together, but move over, Waylay is fitting into that boat really nicely with Raze. Long story short, Split's verticality and choke points will require you to be able to break through them so your team can flood through. Dashes are the way to do that. For initiators, if you're going full send, Breach is fine solo. Just make sure you're dumping util and breaking troops for your duelists. Sky and Gecko both have versatility in their kits to get by. Teo lacks the flash needed for this map, but has everything else. So if you have a flash somewhere else on your team, he's great. For controllers, this is one of Astra's best maps. You can control the choke points on defense at a variety of depths and layers. And on attack, you're able to get your stars into spots that most agents can't get their util into. You're able to take away most of the common defensive hold positions. Omen's kit is also solid, dynamic. Verticality, like I mentioned, is great on Split. Brim's also an underrated pick here on Split. His Stim Beacon is great for your duelists and has one of the best mid stalls in the game. Cypher's pressure on A ramps with his cages puts him into a slightly different evaluation than other Sentis. The only agent better for this play pattern is Viper with her wall across ramps. He has a lot of variety on defense too, where he can play A, B, or mid effectively. He can play all across the map. Sage on Split is super simple. Wall mid, slow B, occasionally swing from atop your wall if people are spamming it, rotate to A when needed. In most ranks, this is going to be enough of a contribution to your team. Vice is also just really strong right now. It's near impossible to get out of B if she's set up there correctly. Wall can be your trip for mid, or you can deep wall in A and let your team rotate to stack the other side.